Alira stood in the middle of a large, cold, metal room. Her hands were locked in glowing energy cuffs, and her legs were chained to the ground. Above her, a giant screen showed a red countdown. 6 minutes. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. But her heart was heavy. Outside, crowds of her people waited to watch her die. The guards called her a traitor, a criminal, a spy. But deep inside, she knew the truth, and that truth was dangerous. 2 soldiers stood on either side of her, holding long shock weapons. One of them, a tall blue-scaled alien, kept checking the countdown. The other just smiled cruelly. "You don't look so proud now, princess," the smiling guard said. Alira didn't reply. There was no point. No one would believe her anyway. The trial had been fake. The verdict was already written before it started. Her only crime. She had seen something she wasn't supposed to see. Something the council didn't want anyone to know. The doors at the back of the room were tall and sealed tight. 4 more guards stood near them, heavily armed. Every camera in the hall was live. Billions across the galaxy were watching. 0.5 minutes, 20 seconds. Her mind drifted to the past, to the war, to the border planet, where she had once helped a human soldier escape enemy fire. She didn't know his name. He had been bleeding, barely alive. But she had helped him anyway. That was a long time ago. Humans were banned now. No one had seen one in years. They had been pushed out, blamed for everything. It was easier to blame the outsiders than to question the powerful. For minutes, 50 seconds. Suddenly, the floor shook. A soft rumble echoed through the hall. The guards looked around, confused. The lights flickered for just a second. "Just another power glitch," one guard muttered. But Alira felt something different. Her instincts screamed. Then came the second shock, louder, stronger. The walls trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. An alarm blared. The red countdown kept ticking. But now flashing beside it was a warning. "Unauthorized entry detected. Secure the entrance," barked the commander. The 4 guards at the door aimed their weapons. Smoke began leaking in from under the doors. 0.4 minutes, 10 seconds. Suddenly, boom, the metal doors exploded inward. A cloud of smoke covered everything. Alarms screamed. Louder. Flashing red lights filled the room. And then, through the smoke, a figure stepped in. Tall, wearing dark combat armor. A helmet with glowing blue eyes. The guards opened fire. But he moved fast, faster than they could react. With sharp, clean movements, he took down one guard, then another. A laser shot bounced off his armor. He rolled, aimed, and fired. The 3rd guard dropped. The 4th tried to run and didn't make it. The smoke began to clear. The cameras caught everything. The soldier walked forward, weapon still hot, eyes fixed on Alira. One of the side guards rushed him, but was thrown across the room in seconds. The last one stood frozen, then dropped his weapon and ran. The countdown still flashed. 3 minutes, 20 seconds. The human removed his helmet. Short brown hair, tired. Eyes a small scar on his cheek. Alira's eyes widened. She recognized him. "You," she whispered. He walked to her, pulling a small device from his belt. With a single tap, the energy cuffs unlocked. Her chains fell to the floor. "You saved me once," he said, his voice calm but fierce. "Now it's my turn." Alira looked around. Everything was chaos. The cameras still rolled. The alarms still screamed. But for a moment, time stood still. "Why now?" she asked. He looked at her, and his eyes were full of memories. "Because you believed in me when no one else did." 2 minutes, 40 seconds. He handed her a small weapon. "We don't have much time. They'll send more." She nodded, gripping the weapon with shaking hands. She wasn't weak. She was just stunned. Together, they ran toward the broken doors. Outside, more footsteps echoed. The real fight was about to begin. But now, she wasn't alone. The hallway was long, dark, and full of smoke. Red warning lights flashed along the walls. Alira followed the human soldier closely, still trying to understand what was happening. Her heart pounded, but not from fear, from shock. No human had stepped foot on their planet in years. The last time anyone had seen a human, it was during the border wars. Since then, their name had become a curse. Hated, feared, forgotten. But this one, he was real, and he was saving her. "What's your name?" she asked, still holding the small weapon he gave her. The human glanced back, eyes sharp and focused. "Name's Jackson." Alira whispered the name to herself. It sounded familiar. Jackson. Stopped at a corner and peeked around it. 2 guards were coming. He waited calm, silent, then moved fast. 2 quick shots. The guards dropped before they even had a chance to speak. "How did you get in here?" Alira asked, amazed. "I've been planning this for a long time," he replied. "Slipped in through the old mining tunnels. They thought those were sealed. But why me?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. "Why risk your life for someone the galaxy calls a traitor?" Jackson turned to her, his expression serious. "Because I know you're not a traitor. I've seen what your council is hiding. You tried to stop them. They punished you for it." Alira's eyes widened. "How do you know all this?" "I have friends," he said simply. "Not everyone in your system agrees with the council. And some people still remember what you did during the war." A memory flashed in Alira's mind. A battlefield covered in fire, screams echoing in the distance, and a wounded human lying on the ground. Jackson. She had dragged him to safety, even when her own side told her to leave him. That was him. "You remember me?" he said, reading her face. Alira nodded slowly. "You were hurt, bleeding. I broke the rules to save you." Jackson smiled faintly. "And now, I'm breaking them to return the favor." They kept moving. Every few steps, they ran into more guards. Jackson never missed a shot. His movements were fast and precise, like he had trained for this his entire life. Alira tried to keep up. She was strong, but she wasn't a soldier. Her people had taken everything from her, her name, her title, even her freedom. Yet now, with Jackson beside her, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. They reached a metal lift. Jackson pressed a button, and it groaned to life. "This will take us to the landing bay," he said. "If we can reach my ship, we can get out of here." "What kind of ship?" she asked. "One I borrowed from someone who won't miss it." He smirked. The doors slid open. They stepped in, and the lift began to rise. But halfway up, boom, the lift shook violently. "Blast," Jackson growled. "They've shut down the main power. We're stuck." He pried open the top hatch and looked up. "We climb." Without hesitation, he pulled himself up, then reached down to help her. Alira climbed slowly, carefully. Below them, the sound of running boots echoed louder. They were being hunted. They reached the top of the shaft and crawled through a vent. It was narrow and hot, but it led them to another hallway, this one full of windows, looking out into space. Stars stretched forever, and distant ships floated nearby. "There," Jackson pointed. "Dr. Zasechi, my ship is there." But just as they began running again, an alert blared. "Alert. Human intruder detected. All units, engage at Dock 17. Jackson cursed under his breath. "They know where we're going." Alira tightened her grip on the weapon. "Then we better move faster." They ran, side by side. Behind them, footsteps and shouts chased them. Like a wave, Jackson led the way, guiding her through secret paths and broken doors. Every time she looked at him, she saw someone who didn't care about danger. Someone who only cared about doing what was right. Alira had thought no one would come for her. But the galaxy still had surprises. They reached Dock 17 just as the guards did. Laser fire lit up the air. Jackson ducked, returned fire, rolled across the floor, and hit 3 enemies in seconds. Alira covered his side, breathing hard, but hitting one of the guards with a lucky shot. They reached the ship, a small but fast-looking vessel, and rushed inside. The doors closed behind them, and Jackson jumped into the pilot seat. "You good back there?" he shouted. Alira took a seat and held on. "Ready?" The ship roared to life and lifted off just as more soldiers ran into the dock. Outside the window, the stars spun as they broke through the defense field. Alira looked back at the burning station, then at Jackson. "You really came all this way? Just for me?" Jackson didn't look at her, but his voice was strong. "No, not just for you. For the truth. For the truth." The ship raced through the stars, moving fast between enemy patrols and floating debris. Jackson sat in the pilot's seat, hands tight on the controls. His eyes scanned every flashing light, every alarm. Alira sat behind him, breathing hard. She had just escaped death, and now she was flying through space with a human, the same human she had once saved long ago. "This ship doesn't look like much," she said, trying to hide her fear, "but it's fast." Jackson smiled. "She's not pretty, but she runs. I've used her for tougher missions than this." Suddenly, a loud beeping sound filled the cockpit. Jackson's face grew serious. "They've launched fighters. 2 of them, closing in fast." Alira looked at the radar screen. 2 red dots were moving toward them like hungry wolves. "They really want me dead," she whispered. "No," Jackson replied. "They want both of us dead now." He pulled a lever, and the ship dived sharply. Alira held on as the stars twisted. Around them, behind them, the enemy fighters opened fire. Red lasers shot past, barely missing the ship's sides. Boom! A blast hit the back of their ship. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew. "We've been hit," Alira shouted. "Just the wing," Jackson replied. "Still flying. But not for long if we don't lose them." He flew low, weaving through a field of old satellites and wrecked ships. The metal debris gave them cover, but it also made flying dangerous. One wrong turn, and they'd crash. The enemy fighters followed closely. One came in from above, firing non-stop. The other tried to block their escape path. "They're too fast," Alira said. "Not fast enough," Jackson muttered. He pressed a button, and a group of small bombs dropped from the ship's back. A moment later, boom, one of the enemy ships exploded in a bright fireball. Alira's eyes widened. "You really came prepared." "I always do." But the second fighter was still on them. Jackson flew toward a nearby moon. Its surface was covered in volcanoes and smoke. "Are you crazy?" Alira asked. "That moon is unstable." "Exactly," he said. "That's why they won't follow us in." He took the ship down, flying between fire and stone. Lava shot up from the ground like fountains of flame. Thick black smoke made it hard to see. But Jackson flew like he knew every inch of the place. The enemy fighters stayed close, firing again. One shot hit their ship's engine. The lights flickered. "We're going down," Jackson shouted. "Brace yourself," Alira yelled. The ship hit the ground hard, sliding across hot rock before crashing near a mountain of burning ash. Metal groaned. Smoke filled the cockpit. Silence. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Jackson coughed and unstrapped himself. "You alive?" "Barely," Alira replied. They climbed out of the ship. Heat hit them like a wall. The ground around them cracked with lava. The air was thick and dry, but somehow they had survived. "Can we fix it?" Alira asked, looking back at the damaged ship. Jackson checked the back. "Engines fried. We're stuck here for now," she sighed. "So we escaped one death and landed in another." Jackson looked at her. "Don't give up. We'll find a way." Suddenly, Alira heard a sound behind the rock's metal footsteps. She grabbed her weapon and took cover. Out of the smoke, tall black machines appeared. Spiders made of steel. Red lights in place of eyes. "What are those?" she asked, voice tight. "They're not from your people," Jackson said. They're from the real enemy. What do you mean? Jackson fired the first shot. I'll explain later, if we survive this. The machines attacked, fast, deadly. But Jackson and Alira fought back together. Laser after laser lit up the smoky air. The ground shook under their feet. Alira moved quickly, remembering her training. Jackson fought with skill and rage. Every shot a memory of war. When the last machine fell, silence returned. What were those? She asked again. They're called harvesters, Jackson said. They go from world to world, stealing life and energy. Your council is working with them. Alira stepped back, shocked. No, that can't be true. It is, he said. I came here to get you out, because you're the only one who found out the truth. You tried to warn people. That's why they wanted you dead? Alira looked around at the burning sky. Everything felt like it was changing. She wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She was part of something much bigger, and with Jackson by her side, maybe, just maybe, they could stop it. Smoke rose around them. The sky above the volcanic moon was dark, lit only by fire and glowing ash. Jackson and Alira stood near the wreck of their ship, both breathing heavily after the fight with the mechanical spider's harvesters. We need to move, Jackson said, scanning the hills. That blast will bring more. Alira looked down at the metal pieces scattered around them. I still can't believe the council is working with those things. Jackson nodded. They've made a deal. The council gets power. In return, they let the machines take smaller worlds quietly. Alira's voice was cold. My people would never agree to that. Your people don't know, Jackson replied. Only the High Council does. They kept it hidden. You found out by accident, didn't you? She looked away. Yes, I saw the files. I tried to speak up, and the next day, they arrested me. Jackson placed a hand on her shoulder. That's why we have to survive, so you can tell the galaxy the truth. A low hum echoed through the valley. Jackson froze. Drones. He grabbed Alira's hand, and they ran toward the rocky cliffs. Behind them, small flying machines appeared, scanning the area with bright, blue lights. They must have tracked the crash, Alira said. They always do, Jackson replied. They're not going to stop. The two of them hid inside a narrow cave. It was hot and filled with smoke, but it gave them cover. The drones passed by slowly, scanning the area outside. We can't stay here forever, Alira whispered. I know, Jackson said, but we need a plan. Alira looked at him. How did you even get here, Jackson? You said you came through the mining tunnels, but how did you know where I was? Jackson took a breath. There's a small resistance network, some humans, some aliens, people who don't trust the council. One of our spies told us they were planning to execute you. I volunteered. Why? She asked. Why would you risk everything, just for me? He looked at her for a long moment. Because I remember what you did for me, when no one else would. And because if people like you die, then there's no hope left. The silence between them was deep, but not empty. Then beep, beep. Jackson checked his wrist device. Bad news, he muttered. A full strike team just landed nearby. Armed soldiers. They're not sending drones anymore. They're coming themselves. How many? Alira asked. Too many. Outside, the sound of engines and metal footsteps echoed. A gunship hovered above, its spotlight scanning the cliffs. Jackson pointed deeper into the cave. There's an old vent system from the mining days. It leads underground. Not safe, but safer than this. They moved fast, crawling through narrow paths. The stone walls burned to the touch. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Jackson used his wrist light to guide them. Suddenly, at the floor beneath them broke. Both of them fell, landing hard in a lower tunnel. You okay? Jackson asked. I think so, Alira said, brushing dust off her arms. The sound of footsteps echoed from above. The soldiers had reached the cave. We don't have much time, Jackson said. They ran through the tunnel, turning corner after corner. At last, they found an old elevator shaft. Jackson looked up. If this still works, it'll take us to the other side of the mountain. There's an old outpost there. He hit the panel. Sparks flew, but the door opened. They stepped inside. Jackson worked fast, connecting wires, forcing the power to return. The elevator shook, then slowly began to rise. But just as the doors started to close, bang, a blaster shot hit the wall beside them. Soldiers were here. Jackson fired back. Hold them off. Alira crouched and returned fire. One soldier fell. Another moved in closer. The doors finally shut, and the elevator rose faster. Jackson let out a breath. That was too close. Where are we going now? Alira asked. To someone who can help us, he said. An old friend. She used to be part of the council, before they turned on her too. You trust her? With my life? The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Cool air hit their faces. Stars shone above. They were outside again, on the far side of the mountain. In the distance, a small building sat hidden behind rocks. Alira looked around. No more fire, no more machines. For now, Jackson nodded. But they're hunting us, Alira. They won't stop. Not until you're dead or silenced. Alira looked at the stars. She had escaped death, survived machines, and was now being hunted by her own people. But she wasn't afraid. She had the truth, and she had someone who believed in her. The small building was old, hidden behind a wall of sharp rocks. From a distance, it looked like a broken storage unit. But when Jackson pressed his hand to the scanner, the metal door slid open with a soft hiss. Alira followed him inside. The lights flickered on. The room smelled like dust and oil. Old screens lined the walls, some still working, showing maps, codes, and hidden signals. It was a secret base, one that had not been touched in years. Welcome to my backup plan, Jackson said. A woman stepped out from behind the corner. She was tall, with silver hair tied tightly behind her head. Her eyes were sharp. She wore armor, not like a soldier, but like someone ready to fight again after being betrayed. Jackson, she said. You brought her. Alira stepped back, unsure. It's okay, Jackson said. She's on our side. The woman nodded. My name is Commander Vera. I used to serve under your High Council, until I learned the truth. Alira's voice was cold. Then you know they tried to kill me. I do, Vera replied. And I know why. Jackson sat down and turned to Alira. It's time, Alira. Tell her what you saw, what you learned. The galaxy needs to hear it. Alira took a deep breath. She had waited for this moment for so long, yet it still made her chest feel heavy. I worked as an advisor to the council, she began. I was loyal. I believed in everything they said. But one day, I found a locked folder in their private network. It wasn't protected well. Maybe someone made a mistake. She paused. What was inside? Vera asked. Plans, deals, maps, Alira said. They were working with machines harvesters. They promised the council more power, more control, and in return, they gave away entire planets, small worlds, quiet colonies, innocent people. Jackson leaned forward. The council allowed those worlds to be destroyed. Yes, Alira nodded. They covered it up, said it was war, said it was natural disasters. But I saw the truth. They signed those deaths with their own hands. She stood up now, her voice stronger. I tried to tell someone. I warned my team. I sent a message to the archives, and then, the next day, I was arrested. Number, trial, no hearing. They said I was a traitor. Vera looked sad, but not surprised. That's what they do. Anyone who speaks up disappears. Jackson pulled out a small chip from his jacket. We got this from one of the machines. Proof. but it needs to be connected to a major system, something strong enough to broadcast across the galaxy. There's a place, Vera said. Central Command Hub on Zyra Station. It's far, and it's guarded. But if you upload the truth there, no one can hide it. Everyone will see. Alira nodded. Then that's where we'll go. Vera stepped forward. It won't be easy. The Council will send fleets. You'll be hunted every step of the way. Jackson smiled slightly. We're already hunted. Alira looked at both of them. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of fire. I don't want revenge, she said. I want justice. I want people to know who the real traitors are. They worked through the night. Vera gave them new gear, armor, weapons, and a stolen ship with false ID codes. Before leaving, Vera pulled Alira aside. You were brave, she said. You spoke the truth when no one else would. Whatever happens next, remember that you are not alone. Alira smiled. Thank you for believing me. As they entered the ship, Jackson turned to her. You sure about this? He asked. No, she replied, but I know it's right. The engines roared to life, and the ship lifted off the ground. The stars welcomed them again, cold and endless. But this time, they were not running. They were heading toward the heart of the Empire, to the very place where her death was ordered. And they were bringing the truth with them. The underground tunnels were cold and silent. Only the sound of dripping water and soft footsteps filled the air. Captain Roran led the way, his rifle ready. Alira followed close behind. Her breath was shaky, but her eyes were full of fire. She was no longer the prisoner from the execution chamber. She was now a fighter with a purpose. They had made it past the outer gates, through burning halls and deadly patrols. But now, they were heading straight into danger. The Lion's Den, what the Resistance called the inner base of the High Council. It was deep under the main city, full of guards, full of secrets, and possibly full of death. We're close, Roran whispered, stopping near a steel door with blinking red lights. Behind this door is the room where they keep all records. If we can get proof of what they did to your people, we can show the galaxy. Alira nodded. Let's finish what we started. Roran placed a small device on the control panel. It blinked green and clicked. The door slid open. Inside was a dark room lined with glowing screens and data cores. They stepped in quickly and shut the door behind them. Roran went to work. His fingers moved fast across the console. I'm downloading file security logs, orders, messages. It'll take a few minutes. Alira walked slowly around the room. She paused near one screen. A video played a recording of her trial. She watched herself stand before the High Council.com, but afraid. She remembered the lies they told. Suddenly, a beep sounded from the console. Roran frowned. Someone triggered a silent alarm. They know we're here. Alira grabbed a nearby blaster. Then we fight. No, Roran said. Not here. This room has no exit but the door. They'll trap us. We need to get out fast. He yanked the data drive from the system and opened the door. Lights flashed red in the hallway. Voices shouted from far away. They ran down narrow paths, past pipes and broken walls. Footsteps echoed behind them, closer and closer. Roran stopped at a metal ladder. This leads to the top level. From there, we can reach the hangars. Climbing was hard. The ladder was wet and slippery, but they didn't stop. At the top, Roran pushed open a heavy grate and pulled Alira up. They entered a hallway with glass walls. Outside, the city lights shone like stars, but they had no time to enjoy the view. There, Roran pointed. The hangar is just ahead. But as they moved, soldiers appeared from the sides. Dozens, guns raised. A voice rang out behind them, cold and sharp. Drop your weapons. Alira turned slowly. It was General Vask, the man who signed her execution order. Roran stepped in front of her. You won't take her again. You think this changes anything? Vask sneered. She's a traitor. And you're a fool. Alira raised her voice. I saw the files. You ordered the bombing of peaceful colonies. You blamed it on rebels. You killed thousands. Vask laughed. And who will believe you? A soldier who disobeyed orders, and a girl who was about to be executed. Roran smiled faintly. Maybe no one, but the truth is out now. He tapped his chest. A green light blinked from a small camera on his armor. You're being recorded, he said. Everything you just said is live-streamed to resistance ships. Vask's face changed. Shock, then anger. Shoot them, he shouted. But it was too late. The building shook. Explosions rocked the hangar. Resistance fighters burst through the walls and windows. Smoke filled the air. Blasters fired from every side. Roran pulled Alira behind a pillar. Stay low. We'll get to a ship. Through chaos and fire, they pushed forward. More soldiers came, but so did more rebels. The tide had turned. Alira and Roran reached a small fighter ship. Roran opened the hatch. Get in. Alira paused, looking back at the burning hallway. We did it. He nodded. We're not done yet, but we gave them a reason to fight. They entered the ship and took off, as the city grew smaller behind them. Alira looked out the window. For the first time, she said softly, I feel free. Roran looked at her. And this is only the beginning. The ship flew into the stars heading for the final battle. Smoke filled the ruined hall. The ceiling had collapsed in parts. Sparks flew from shattered control panels, and fire roared somewhere nearby. Alira coughed, covering her mouth as she looked around. The air was thick, and every breath burned her lungs. Beside her, Captain Rourke leaned against a wall, bleeding from his side. He had been shot while they were escaping through the main corridor. Still, he held his gun tightly, watching for enemies. We have to move, Rourke said in a low voice, grimacing in pain. Alira nodded. But where? They're closing in. Their last chance was to reach the underground launch hangar. If they could steal a ship, they might escape the capital. But the hangar was behind 3 more security checkpoints, and the enemy knew they were coming. The sound of boots echoed through the halls. Enemy soldiers. Rourke pulled Alira down behind a large broken console. He raised his weapon slowly, waiting. A squad of soldiers entered, scanning the smoke. But before they could find them, a sudden explosion from another part of the building distracted the guards. Alarms screamed louder, and emergency lights blinked red. The squad ran toward the explosion. That was our team, Rourke whispered. They're still fighting, still giving us time. Alira looked at him. We can't waste it. Helping him up, they moved fast, limping through the hallways. Around them, the world felt like it was falling apart, burning metal, falling debris, gunfire in the distance. It was chaos. But they pushed forward. They reached the next security gate. Locked. No code. No way through. Alira looked at the keypad, then at Rourke. I need a minute. She pulled out a small tool from her belt, a bypass chip. Back when she worked in communications, she learned how to override doors like this. Her hands shook as she worked. Every second felt like an hour. Suddenly, a bullet cracked the wall above her. They were found faster, Rourke shouted, firing back at the soldiers. Alira's fingers moved faster. Sparks flew. The lock clicked open. Got it, she screamed. They rushed through just as the enemy opened fire. The heavy door slammed shut behind them. Safe, for now. Their path took them down a dark staircase to the underground hangar. As they entered, they saw it a small, old scout ship, barely functioning, but it could fly. Alira helped Rourke inside. The controls were dusty, the fuel low, but the systems blinked to life. She sat at the pilot's seat. It had been years since she flew anything, but she had no choice. Enemy soldiers rushed into the hangar. They're here, Rourke warned, gripping the side of the seat. Alira hit the ignition. The engines roared. The ship trembled. Then it lifted off the ground. Bullets hit the side of The ship. Sparks flew. One window cracked. Come on, she whispered. The hangar door began to open slowly. Rourke fired out the side, covering her. The moment there was enough space, Alira pulled the lever hard. The ship launched forward, scraping the sides of the hangar as it blasted into the sky. Behind them, the Capitol burned. Above them, the stars waited. Inside the ship, there was silence. For a moment, then Rourke laughed, even in pain. You did it. Alira gave a weak smile, tears in her eyes. We did it. But this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. Now, the truth had to be shared. The lies of her government, the real reason behind her execution, the conspiracy that almost destroyed everything someone had to tell the galaxy, and to people an ex-prisoner and a soldier who shouldn't have been there, were now the only ones who could. Through smoke, fire, and blood, they had found hope, and they would not stop. Not now. Not ever, ever. Hi, this story is made by a human just for fun. It's not real. All the characters and events are made up. Thanks for watching.